Okay. Hi, Joe. Thanks for hopping on. Alrighty. So I am going to go ahead and
Well,
share my screen. Can everybody see my Facebook
Mhm.
up here?
Yes.
Okay. So I am on the Cedar Ridge page, for example, but we are all added as editors on the business page. So for example, hey Dennis, I see him. Hey Dennis.
Hi guys.
Hello. So for
Yeah, so nice to
example,
be.
if I was to go onto Facebook, I would be logging in through my own. So here I've logged in, and let's say I wanted to post as Cedar Ridge. I'm going to look up the community and click here. And then you'll find that as I'm scrolling, it just starts to show the posts that are there. It doesn't give me an option to start posting as the community until we see on the left-hand side, it's asking me to switch to the business page. So this is pretty helpful so that you can keep your own page separate from the business one. I know that's a common question that gets asked. So what you can do here is click switch once you've been added. And now you're going to be operating as your own community. So for example, up here, the icon for the account, it now shows that I'm operating as Cedar Ridge and not through my own page. So that kind of helps keep it separate. If for any reason you feel uncomfortable getting your own page added, you can also make like a default Facebook page for work and we can add that one. So that's entirely up to you depending on what you prefer. But ultimately, as you're navigating through this, people won't know it's you. It's just going to show as Cedar Ridge. So for example, if I click to create a post, it's showing Cedar Ridge, what's on your mind. I can do whatever I'd like. It's not going to say Samantha posted this. So it's really up to you. What we can see from RN2, we like to encourage the administrators, the marketing person, and the life enrichment person to all have access to the page. If you ever have a business office director who's very tech savvy and you know they'd be a good person to add, we can add them too. So I can send over the instructions afterwards to each of you. You just let me know who would you prefer has access to your Facebook page, and then I can send over the instructions to get added and the training. The training that I have is about a 20-minute video. It's going to be a voiceover of me going through a business page and showing you exactly what to look at, how to post, and what to keep an eye on. What you ultimately want to consider is any photos that you do share of a resident, you want to make sure that you do have them or the team members' consent of whoever you publish on social media. That's going to be very helpful because if you ever have someone who doesn't like to be or hasn't given their consent and they're in the back of a photo, what's happened in the past is that they're going to be like, hey, take my picture down. I'm going to sue you. You never know what people's reactions are going to be. So just be very mindful of that for everything that you share. I do find that the majority of the people who follow your community pages are families of the ones in your community, or it could be your team members. It's a great way to highlight anniversaries, birthdays, activities, just share an inside look of what's really going on within your building. So I would love to get you all added onto here. Are there any questions so far regarding Facebook that I can help answer? Nope. Okay. So I don't believe your communities except Heatherwood has Instagram. Is that correct? Or is there an Instagram page for your communities? No. Okay. So we're going to only focus on Facebook if you do not have an Instagram account, just so that we can make sure we're all hands on deck for that platform. In the future, if your community wants to open an Instagram account, I can do that for you. And then we can determine who to get added onto there. The reason that your graphic designer sends you that square image format is so that you can cross post it to both platforms. So then you can only post something on once and it'll automatically go to both with an easy push of a button and make a lot less work for you. So just wanted to touch on that's something we can always do down the road. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to show everybody, this one here is more focused on life enrichment. It is one of Compass's True North programs called Tiny Stories Project. So I've pulled up the website here. On the websites that we're building for Cedar Ridge and the Grove, there will also be a little section highlighting what this is. But this has been a True North program with Compass that is kind of in the form of an audio blog. With the consent of the residents, of course, we like to capture their stories and their photos and feature them here on the website. So here on the homepage, it will show a description of what that is, but on the top menu bar, I'm going to click listen to our stories. And what I'm also going to do, I need to add the new communities underneath regions and locations, just so that anybody who visits, they can find your community there too, and have more people go to your website. But this is what it looks like. Let's see, let me pull up an example. I'll do Irene Hearn. So as I mentioned, with their consent, we like to capture photos from different points of their life. It's entirely dependent on what they want shared. If a family member knows that their stories are going to be captured, they can send more photos. Or if there's a photo in their room that they really love, we can scan it, I can enhance it, we can add it here. A lot of different things that we can do. But here is what I mean by tiny stories. So usually we have the life enrichment director to sit down with them for about 20 minutes. They can order a recording device from Amazon and just record the story with their consent. So what we do, we clip segments of that story into a minute. So that way we can transcribe it for your team. We can have the audio up. All your team has to do is gather that story, send it to me, and then we'll have an editor to do everything else and get it added. So I'll go ahead and play this one, for instance. Let me do this one. Hopefully you guys can
He
hear
went
it.
to the train station as a taxi cab driver and picked up my mother. That way they met. And I'm not sure just when they were married. I think they were married in 1921. And then I had a sister that was born in 1923, Norma. And then myself, I was born in 1925. I'm not sure at what time after that we all moved to Oregon in a little town called Bradbury, which was just out of Clatskanie, Oregon. And it was on the Columbia River. And my grandparents lived there.
Okay, so that's a small segment. You'll find that it's broken down to more things that they can talk about. We do have, for the training of this, we have a guideline of how to gather these stories, what kind of questions you can ask. We do give tips too that you want to be really mindful to not have a lot of background noise, just so that you can focus on their voices, because it's really hard to kind of take out any background noise. But we also have a community that really started this early on with Compass called Peachtree Retirement. And they actually have a hallway dedicated to showcasing these tiny stories. So with our graphic designer, Tina, they make a framed version of the story with their photo, and then they gift it to the family, and they also just showcase it in their community. What we could also do is I can send over the edited files to you, and you can download it on a flash drive and gift it to the family. So a lot of ways to preserve their legacy. I've heard a lot of funny things come in on this website. It's really interesting to hear people's advice on their first job, second job. I've heard third marriages. I've heard a woman here who traveled to the United States on the Queen Mary. And I believe there's also a very flirtatious old man who is just flirting up a storm with the activities director, which is really fun. So a lot of good things can be added onto here. If at the end of the day, let's say a resident wants to be added on here, but they don't want to be published on social media, that has happened before too. Part of getting their consent is consenting to distribute online and consent to showcase on the website. If at the end of the day we add them here and maybe they're embarrassed and they don't like it, we can easily take it down. That's no problem. We want to respect everyone's privacy. And there was another one here. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, these two ladies from Juniper Springs, their stories were a little different because usually the stories were captured in an interview format where you ask them questions, but this was during the height of the pandemic. And these two ladies had lived through a measles epidemic during their childhood. So during their interview, they were asked, what advice do you have for us today since we're scared, we're stressed, and we're dealing with this pandemic versus what you've lived through with your experience with the measles epidemic? And it was very endearing. They were just like, oh, this is nothing. We had to mark our doors. We had to do this. And it just gave a lot of reassurance to folks during a really scary time. So what the Juniper Springs team did, they copied this URL and they added it to Facebook and it blew up. People loved it. They were able to connect. They heard a different perspective from seniors that they don't usually do. So a lot of good things that we can do just to share all the stories that are captured onto here.
I have to tell you, Samantha, that story about them putting stickers on their door. I had a chuckle about that because when COVID first became a thing, I don't know in your communities, but in my rural Wisconsin community, public health was going around putting stickers on everybody's door that had COVID.
Oh, wow. So it
Mhm.
brought flashbacks, war flashback to the stickers. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all unfortunate things that we had to go through, but looking back, it gives kind of a reassuring perspective. It's like we get through this, you know? So does anybody have any questions about Tiny Stories project?
This is awesome.
Yeah, you like it?
I love it.
Awesome. Yes, I'm hoping to revamp this like later on in the year. I know that the holidays are coming up, so I'm currently looking for a new editor, and I'm going to be telling the Life Enrichment teams once we have that, like, hey, the holidays are coming up. Now's the time to capture those stories for what's your favorite holiday memory, what's a tradition, and kind of use that to get these generated again. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to touch on is Spectrio LiveShare. So this is what the calendar integration website looks like for the what's going to be added to Cedar Ridge and the Grove. Heatherwood already has theirs, so I'll probably use that one as an example. But it's very different than what you've been using. I did reach out to both Cedar Ridge and the Grove to see what you've been using before. I know one of you were partnered with Illustratus, and then the other one was getting their activity calendars through Activity Connection. So this is going to be a little bit different. So for example, we will get your teams access to your community page. What I really love about this is, let me go ahead and go to the header one, for example. Okay, so if you have different levels of care, you can have different calendars, or you can have one campus calendar. That's going to be something that I'm going to talk to you about so that we can figure that out. With each level that you have for those different calendars, what we do is we get Spectrio to send you a device that you connect to a TV in a common area in your building. So that TV will then display daily activities, menus, announcements. So let me go ahead and click on assisted living here and see if we have an example. Okay, so this is an example of what's currently circulating on the Heatherwood page, the Heatherwood TV, excuse me, for assisted living. So it's going to rotate anything that the activities directors are updating. You can showcase photos, announcements, daily menus. There's a lot of things that you can do and you can customize it. If you ever have somebody who's coming to tour your community, you can also make a custom slide that says, welcome, Samantha. We can't wait to show you around. Or if somebody's a new move-in, you can say, welcome to your new home, or happy birthdays. A lot of things can be showcased onto here. So this is what the platform looks like. On the left-hand side, we have a directory. When we first get your residents added onto here, we will have a training scheduled where a representative will walk through every single section onto here, and then we'll do a bulk upload of all your residents. And then moving forward, your teams are responsible for manually updating it. Very easy to do once that's done. But we can also go ahead here and click under activities. And then here we can see the daily activities that were added for Friday. I see some here are also recurring, so it's really convenient so the teams don't have to manually update it each day. They have a really convenient setting where they can just say this happens every Friday at 3 o'clock and so forth. They can also do special announcements, feature the menus, feature birthdays. And then when it is added to your TV, there's also some on-demand features. So that means if people have the remote with the TV, they also have access to music, to games, things that they can do with the TV that will all be explained during our training. So I am really looking forward to getting your communities added. I did hear from Cedar Ridge that you've typically had one assisted living and one memory care calendar. Is that correct? I missed it. Did someone do a thumbs up? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, perfect. And then what about for the Grove? Have you had one general calendar, or has it been calendars for assisted living and memory care? Okay.
We have assisted living and memory care.
Okay, so do you think that's how you want to maintain it with two separate calendars? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that sounds like a good plan. I want to show you what those calendars look like when they are published. Let me share my screen. Okay, so let's say, for instance, we want to take a look at the Heatherwood July calendar that's coming up. Let me go back over here. I'm going to go ahead and print the calendar. So your teams will be able to print it directly from the website. What I really like about this too is I will have a certain link that I update on your website. So if any family members or residents are like, hey, like, where can I find our activity calendar? You can just show them where to look on the website and they'll be able to see that with any updates that you make on there. What also is really great about Spectrio is that your community is also going to have an app on their phones where you can tell residents to download it, family members to download it, and they can also see the daily activities and menus that are added. So we're also going to be encouraging participation tracking. I know in certain states it is required. I'm not quite sure in Oklahoma, but that's also helpful because you'll be able to see with like wellness or with activity levels, how is each resident doing with those things. And then if you have a family member that's just like, hey, my mom, she hates this. She says there's no activities. She can look directly on her phone and see that they have something coming up at your community. Say, hey mom, like I see this is happening at 3 o'clock. Why don't you go ahead and join that? I know you really love to do it. So it helps also keep them involved with what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to click publish and I'm going to view the two-sided calendar. Okay, so this is an example of what the July calendar looks like. This is what would be added to the websites. And then each month, the holiday header would change for whatever the theme would be for the season. So just a preview of what's to come. I will be following up with next steps and checking in with Amanda and Jayla to make sure how many devices are needed. And then from there, we'll go ahead and schedule a onboarding for your team. Are there any questions so far about Spectrio LifeShare? No?
No.
Okay, awesome. And then the last thing that I wanted to show everybody, I know yesterday I touched a little bit on this, but there is a page in SharePoint for life enrichment. So I want to show what that looks like. So here I am on the homepage of SharePoint. I refer to this as the Google of Compass because each department uploads a lot of information that could be helpful for reference. If you ever are looking for something specifically, feel free to reach out to that department head and we can help point you in the right direction. But I'm going to click here underneath marketing and life enrichment. From here, it's going to take us to the marketing page, but I'm going to click on this button that's yellow that says life enrichment, documents, resources, and activity ideas. So this page has content that I've added that I think would be helpful regarding the resources that are available. We do have like the Compass Cafe. That's something that can be promoted at your community. And we also have the signature mocktail programs that Raymond creates. We do send out announcements of any new recipes that are added, but this is very popular for life enrichment because it's a fun, delicious, and nutritious way for people to try a new beverage, or the team members can get involved, or you can hand them out during tours. Very popular, especially now with the hot months coming up. I know the teams are going to really enjoy doing that. We also have Brain Boost Nutrition. Those are smoothie recipes that you can do. If you ever do want to incorporate these, but you have a memory care community, I would encourage you to, I'd say, pre-blend the things so that the sound is not a sensory overload for your residents, but instead they can still enjoy the beverages and participate that way. Or they can take care of adding the ingredients into the smoothie and then you go blend it somewhere else so that it's not a sensory overload. So that's a tip that I found is pretty helpful in that case. Okay, so I've also added here resources for the Tiny Stories project. When I do get team members trained, I usually email it out directly. So if you have an activities director who is ready to do these trainings, please let me know and I can follow up. Usually for life enrichment, the primary trainings that I help with are Facebook, Tiny Stories project, and LifeShare. So since we're going to be working on LifeShare for the calendar, we can already get started on Facebook and Tiny Stories just to get that off of their list. And then I also have here a section that reads activities for seniors. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Okay, so this is something that I plan to update continuously throughout the year. I pull different activities that I do find on Activity Connection or different like life enrichment senior websites that I'm subscribed to so that all team members have access to it. So for example, if you wanted to get ideas for memory care residents and things that you can do, you can take a look at this folder here. I've added a few already, but when you click it, you should see either a video or a PDF giving you instructions on what kind of activity you can incorporate monthly. At the very bottom, I also have some information if you ever have team members who are new with working with memory care residents, they can kind of educate themselves a bit more and get some tips from people. And then I'll go back over here. If you ever wanted, let's see, social activity suggestions, you can take a look at this folder here. We have options for intergenerational activities for Grandparents' Day, hobby clubs. I know that one's very popular with the communities because the residents can kind of lead these on their own and they can meet weekly, bi-weekly and kind of figure out what they'd like to do. This one was requested because a lot of communities were just like, hey, like the men at our community are tired of painting and doing so forth. What are some activities that they can do specifically? So there are a few options here that you can choose from. We have trivia, and then let me go back to see what else I've added. We have empowering activities. So we have armchair travel. I know this one's pretty popular too. So for example, if you wanted to armchair travel to Mexico, when you click on this, you're going to see a few things that I've added. So I have Mexico pesos that you can print out. You can hand them to the residents so they have like the currency. There's also videos here that I've pulled from YouTube. So if you click on it, it's going to be about a 30-minute video. So they're armchair traveling here. They get to know the area. You don't have to use these videos. I just put some as a suggestion. I usually try to do like high quality videos. So here, for example, we have 10 most amazing Mayan ruins. So you can kind of get creative and pull from whatever you'd like to use. And then I also added a Spotify playlist. So if you want to feature any music leading up to this activity, you can just play this throughout your community. So there's a few of those added onto here. And then the last thing that I have is going to be on the bottom of this page. I have a few quick link resources here. My favorite to reference is going to be this one for holiday insights. So as we know, there's a holiday for every day, right? And that's very important with life enrichment because it'll help you plan and do exciting things that are outside of the norm. This website here will give you a lot of great ideas on how to do that. So I'm going to go to the top where it says daily holidays and go to July. Hit close. And then from here, you can scroll down and see that they have a daily holiday for everything. Week 2, nude recreation week. Don't do that. That would be chaotic if anybody incorporated that, but a lot of fun things that you can kind of incorporate from here. There is International Chicken Wing Day. Let's see, what else do we have? National Apple Turnover Day, National Fried Chicken Day, Body Painting Day, Chocolate Day, a lot of things going on. So if anybody ever needs any ideas, you can kind of take a look at that through here. Okay, are there any questions regarding Facebook or activities or the Spectrio account that we're going to be getting set up at your communities? Nope. Okay, and then just so you know, I keep track of everyone's trainings. So in the future, as people get things completed, I'll mark it as done. If you ever get a new team member, I'll also follow up with them once you let me know. So you can kind of check in like, hey, like, did this person already complete this? I can take a look, if not, follow up accordingly. But yeah, just wanted to show you all a preview of what this looks like. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will be following up with the communities on this call so that we can make sure that the correct people are added to your Facebook pages. I would love to send you the Facebook training before I'm out of office, starting July 8th. That way you can at least have that covered and work on that in the meantime. Okay. Alrighty, so,
I have one question that isn't like necessarily social media. It's
Okay.
more about company email.
alrighty.
So what I'm having difficulty with at Heatherwood is, and maybe it's not difficulty, that's probably not the right word, but like our main form of communication, the culture standard is text messaging.
Mm,
But not, so when you're in the area, you have different service providers or different devices that you can use, right, for that text messaging. But not everybody, like, for example, here, they have the Smart Talk. And when I send out a group text message, the Smart Talk people don't get the message. I have to send them then their own message for them to receive it because they can't get it in a group text. And the other thing is when you have a variety of folks that have different service providers, like iPhone only allows you to have 20 people in a group. Well, I have more than 20 people to be communicating with.
Mhm.
So I have like several different text message groups in addition to having to remember who do I need to message individually, the same information, so I don't miss anybody. And
Alright.
somebody's going to be bound to get lost or missed. And so do you have any ideas or suggestions as to try to make a different standard in the community? My understanding is nobody wants to have another email to have to worry about.
Okay, and you find, is it not productive to do the communicating in an email? Is it just quicker to do it through text?
I would find it quicker in email, but not everybody is wanting to access another email
Mhm.
per se. So they'd rather get a text message because that's more instantaneous. So
Mm,
someone suggested me, and the other thing is some things that they send me, I'm concerned about HIPAA, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So somebody had shared with me that in some communities, they use the WhatsApp
Mhm.
because that's not something that retains information. But I don't know if that's true, the confidentiality nature of that app. I don't know what that is. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to go ahead and implement that without talking to somebody. And you seem to be one of the people that would know something about that.
Yes, that's a great question, and it really does vary with what's being shared. Because if it's something that you need to have like a documented paper trail, I would say email is your safest bet. So that way that's one-on-one communication that you can have in a place where you can reference it. I know if you do it through text, that's harder to document, especially because so many people use a different app or a different phone number. How do you get that all streamlined to one communication method? Um, I know other teams also use Slack. Slack is
What?
it's called Slack. That is an app that also helps with communications one-on-one or with groups, but I don't know if we're telling people to use that again because it's hard for us to streamline communication. So I'd say double check with Jayla. Double check with Jayla on what she suggests because I don't know if she's telling the teams to only use email or if it's okay to do it through a different method. I think she can give you a little bit better guidance on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Have the other facilities used something else that they have found worked for them that are on this call?
That are on this call. Is
Yeah.
anybody else using something similar? What's your best form of communication to your teams that you currently use? That you can kind of help Angela here.
No, we don't have one other than send through text and emails right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the part that concerns me is the HIPAA information because you don't want to be caught in a bad position with that. So
We were using GroupMe, but mainly for staffing. If we had open shifts, if we were using that one.
yes. Okay. So I hope that helps Angela, but I think you can get better direction from Jayla.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? could be Compass related, or it could be social media onboarding related that I can help answer.
Samantha, I have a question.
Yeah.
Caring.com, my referrals are not going to my email, and Carrie's receiving them from someone else and forwarding them to me.
Yes, Jarek sent me an email about that this morning. So I reached out. It looks like they sent all of the paperwork to get your community onboarded this morning. So I don't know how they ended up sending it to somebody else when I was very clear that it should go to Samantha. So I'm troubleshooting that. I'm kind of waiting to see what's the next step. I know it's in the production phase, is what they told me this morning. So
Okay.
I'll forward that email to you just so that you can see what was shared and who should have access. But I think they're working on that. And then hopefully they fix it today, because I want to make sure that you're getting those correct lead emails,
Me too. Thank you.
of course. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions before we hop off for today? No? Alrighty. Well, I hope you all have a great weekend. Do you guys want me to send out the recording for today's call so that you can have it for reference? Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. I can do
Yes.
that. Alrighty. Okay. Thanks, everybody.